So you were asking about the warranty on this machine.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 1 year. It's basically one of the best in the industry. You've got 1 year for all of your labor. You've got 3 years parts and actually 5 years on the compressor. Okay, so we're just doing a demonstration of the batch freezer here. Batch freezer is a pretty generic type of machine in that it makes a whole lot of different products. So it's got anything from anything you scoop from a cabinet or a display cabinet. So you can do water ice, you can do sherbet, you can do gelato, you can do premium ice cream. So a couple of things about this particular batch freezer. It, like most batch freezers, has your rotate button. So when I turn my rotate on, it'll start the dasher rotating. When you're in this mode, you're basically either sanitizing or cleaning at the end of the day. Your freeze switch obviously is when you start that freezing process, when you're freezing the product down. One thing that's unique here in this particular version is that you have your variable speed dasher control and your viscosity control. So most batch freezers run on anywhere between 200 and 230 revs per minute, rotations per minute. And that's set, you can't really change that. So when you're putting a product in the batch freezer, whatever you're pulling out really is all you're going to get so far as variance is concerned. So with the ability to be able to reduce or increase the RPMs of the dasher, you can make a low air or a less fluffy or dense product or a higher end product or a higher fluffy product. So you can change the overrun or change the beater speed to increase the air. And that's relatively unique so far as batch freezers are concerned. There's also a viscosity control here which works in tandem with your speed control. So primarily, when the product starts to get to the point where it's thickening up, this viscosity control allows you to extract it out a little bit earlier or a little bit later, depending on your recipe and what your customer wants. So these two controls, new to Electro-Freeze this year, relatively unique in the batch freezer market, and it gives you the variety to make a much more diverse quality of product. So I'll put the rest of this mix in. Again, this is a 14% base. Now the beauty of this particular rotation system is that I can actually mix the flavor in as I go. So I have some Ghirardelli sweet ground chocolate and cocoa. So we'll put some of that in as a background flavor note. Because if I'm doing just a regular chocolate, I would make that chocolate a much more heavy chocolate. If I'm using it as a background note and putting a chocolate swirl in, then I don't want a huge bunch of chocolate in there. I just want a nice background note to the chocolate. So I'll put 2 or 3 of these packets in. Flush it with the last little bit of mix. And then I'll turn my rotate button on. So what that'll do is start rotating the flavor profile into that mix. Rather than having to mix it in a bucket, I can mix it in the batch freezer. Once that's kind of starting to mix in there for 1 minute or so, then I can start the refrigeration process. So before I do that, I'm going to set my RPM on around about 200. Which is a little less than the standard 230, so I'm going to get a much heavier, more deeper ice cream. And I'm going to set my viscosity on about 30. So that viscosity setting, you pull the knob out, you rotate it, you lock it back in to put it into place. Now that my chocolate mix is going in there, I'll turn my refrigeration switch on. This is an air-cooled unit. These units come in single-phase or 3-phase, air-cooled or water-cooled. So you'll kind of see as the product freezes down, and please feel free to come and have a look as it's freezing, you're going to start getting that overrun or that expansion, and it'll push back into this chute. So you'll get an idea as to how the product is freezing down. Another thing too is that you're looking at your viscosity level. So I've got my viscosity level set here on I think about 25. So I'm at 13, what did I say? 30. So I know I'm at 14 now, I can be preparing the next batch of flavor to go through. So it, in essence, is my timer as that kind of counts down or counts up towards the 30. So I'll get that ready. I'm at my 30 viscosity here. So I'm going to turn my my compressor off, or the freezing process off, and just open up the front gate here, and extract a little of that ice cream out. And you can see it's nice and firm, it doesn't drop off immediately, and for me as the ice cream maker, I know that's the consistency that I want. So I open up my front gate here, and the first portion of it, I want to make sure that I get into the crevice of the case. So I'll take about an inch off and just rotate that into the corner of the bucket. Now I know round buckets don't have corners, but there is an edge there. So I've got, I want to make sure that I don't have any air pockets in there. I take my brownie mix, just put a little bit in there. It's really up to you as to how much brownie you put in. The thing though is that you've got to make sure that you're accounting for food costs. So anything that you put in this ice cream is going into the cost of that ice cream. Then I've got a Ghirardelli Premium Black brand chocolate here. And so I put a ribbon through it. Once I've done that, I hit my extract button again. And then I get my next layer coming out. Around about an inch, shut it off. Now, some ice cream makers will actually get that spatula and rotate it around so that your product's full of it, full of the brownies, full of the things. You lose the distinction of that ribbon when you do that. So I kind of do it layer by layer by layer. So this is a Ghirardelli, actually this is a Street Sweet brownie from the booth just next door here. So you want to make sure that you've got a good layer of that. Again, chocolate syrup. And then we basically do this all the way up this bucket. So 2.5 gallon bucket. Rotate it with one hand, spatula with the other. Someone's cooking something, smells really good. Come on, mate. I'll tell you too that this shelf is adjustable, so if you have a larger container that you want to extract into, or a smaller like a gelato pan, you can move this shelf up and down. So this will be the last one that come out. I'll have a little bit more in here, but we'll get it out and start the tasting process. So I'll close my front gate, take that last portion off. And again, the one that you want on the top, you want to have it visually looking good. So you'll want to make sure that the top of this bucket has a good amount of the particulate, in this case brownie. And then your ribbon. See how sturdy this machine is? So I would then take this out, standing on my mic, I'd take this out and put it into the blast freezer for at least 4 to 6 hours, 2.5 gallon bucket, and then I'd rotate this into my storage freezer and then into my regular dipping cabinet depending on the need. Some dipping cabinets have storage underneath, which makes it easy. Gelato cases typically don't. So I'll pop this over here and we'll get some spoons out.